You must have surely seen such quotes circulating on social media, especially Twitter. These posts usually get thousands of retweets and shares, and when we look at these quotes, we get to know they claim to explain societal cycles. They just present a simple four-part cycle. Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times, and people share it confidently. Today I will tell you the truth about this popular quote. This cycle is called the generational theory, and people who promote it are called cycle theorists. Some proponents even claim that if you understand this cycle, you can predict the future of society. This is a very serious and bold claim, but many historians and sociologists don't agree with this. There is no substantial historical evidence for these simplified claims at the ground reality. That's why this theory is considered very controversial in academic circles. On the other hand, the people who believe in this cycle claim that they can see it happening right now. Slowly, its popularity is also rising on social media. Are you getting how serious this issue is? And we need to understand this in detail. This video will be very deep, so watch carefully and do share it as well. History is not a simple cycle of strength and weakness. Feels good at first, but there is a lot of oversimplification. It is ignoring nuance and literally ignoring historical complexity. Generational theory treats symptoms and not structural causes. They don't need to have a background in historical research, and they are calling themselves experts on civilizational decline. I don't want the simplified explanation. I want the person who knows what they're talking about. Basically, the weak men create hard times, quote, is a reductionist view of history. Let me quote a research paper here for your better understanding of its origins. First thing we need to understand is that this quote doesn't come from ancient wisdom or historical scholars. The second thing is that this cycle gained popularity only recently, which is important to note. The third thing is that the original quote can be traced to a post-apocalyptic novel. This is what cycle theorists ignore. They present this literary device as historical fact. Other than this, a concept of determinism is also present in this theory. In the concept of determinism, the believers say that human societies follow predictable patterns, which means our future is predetermined by these cycles. It means that if any society is experiencing peace and prosperity, then there is only a matter of time before decline. And because all these cycles are supposedly inevitable, they believe that if men become weak, and this weakness spreads through society, collapse and hardship must follow. This concept of cyclical determinism was considered overly simplistic by most historians because the majority of historical research goes completely against this reductionist concept. So the question arises, where does the fundamental understanding of this cycle come from? How did this idea develop? For this, you will have to come with me to the year 2016. G. Michael Hopf's novel Those Who Remain is considered the source of this popular quote. He was a fiction writer, not a historian. It is also important to understand the fictional context. According to many, the quote first gained traction in online communities. The quote actually simplified complex historical processes into a memorable phrase. So internet communities spread this idea in such a way that it was like wildfire. People started using it to explain every societal problem. Hopf likely never intended his fiction to be treated as historical analysis. Such widespread acceptance made it become accepted wisdom in certain circles, but it still became a framework for discussing generational differences. And it is not necessary that these literary quotes should be treated as factual. But whatever the real intention was, this quote from a post-apocalyptic novel is considered to be the foundation of a popular pseudo-historical theory. Now let's examine why this theory is problematic. There are three major flaws in this simplified view. First, it defines strength and weakness in very narrow terms. The idea of what makes someone strong or weak is highly subjective and culturally specific. The second problem is that it ignores the countless factors that influence historical events. What about economic systems, technological advancements, climate changes, and political structures? And the third issue is that it presents history as a simple, predictable cycle, when real history shows far more complexity and randomness. This oversimplification misses the true causes of societal changes. Now this cycle became widely popular around 2018. In recent years, Many internet personalities have embraced this framework. They even created content around this cycle. These are to date very popular videos and posts, and this theory is on the rise across social platforms. Many other variations also emerged related to this. Many commentators started using this to criticize modern society, but in academic circles, historical researchers have strongly criticized this view. They said that you are reducing complex historical processes to a simple slogan. So many scholars have debunked these claims. This had a deep impact on how we should view such theories. They thought that if we cannot understand history through simple cycles, why don't we examine the actual complex factors? They were considering this very seriously. This was revealed to us when we studied actual historical transitions. They pointed to specific historical examples. This contradiction was revealed for the first time when actual case studies were analyzed in recent years. They mentioned that real history shows societies like the Roman Empire declined over centuries due to multiple complex factors. They were seriously arguing against the idea that any generation can be uniformly classified as strong or weak. The complexity of historical change requires nuanced analysis. And after that, more thoughtful commentators tried to provide better frameworks and also opened many new perspectives on societal changes. So this was all about the history of this quote. Now this theory may sound very appealing, and many have embraced it as an explanation for current problems. But still, many historians reject this oversimplified view. But the question is, why is this happening? Well, as much as we could get to know about this in our research, there are three major reasons behind this. First is the appeal of simplicity. The idea of a predictable cycle tells that complex problems have simple explanations, but we have not seen serious historians embracing this framework. Generally, people are searching for easy answers, mostly for complex social issues, economic problems, and cultural changes. Mostly, these are people who do not want to engage with complexity, but want to understand the world through simple frameworks. That's why they chose this cycle theory. And in some cases, people do find comfort in these simplified explanations. Simple explanations reduce anxiety about uncertainty. The mind prefers patterns even when they don't exist, and this gives us a false sense of understanding. And modern discussions are not only limited to strength and weakness. Some commentators incorporate economic factors, technological changes, and political systems in their analysis. This gives them more credibility. Secondly, this quote serves ideological purposes. Any serious historical analysis requires acknowledging multiple perspectives, which is difficult. People think that this cycle explains everything happening today. People think this is profound and insightful too. Many people also think that current social changes are signs of weakness, so they chose this theory to support their existing beliefs. You would also notice that many cycle believers are seen lamenting the current generation, like certain online commentators who have also gained large followings on social media. They call younger generations unprepared for hardship and even idealize past generations. Even some prominent social critics themselves were not accurately representing historical facts. Even during major crises, many commentators were using this framework to blame weak men. The third reason is confirmation bias. This theory is somewhat attractive to our biases. When our minds look for patterns, we tend to notice evidence that supports our beliefs and even ignore contradictory evidence. And slowly, this gets converted into a reinforced worldview, and people start getting committed to this perspective. People share examples that fit the cycle and ignore those that don't, and they feel validated. It confirms existing beliefs. But generally, according to historians, it does not give an accurate understanding. And the problem starts from here only because if you observe, everyone's historical understanding does not improve by following this theory. Many people develop distorted views, and the more concerning part is that it sometimes leads to harmful conclusions. For example, look at the case of a major historical misunderstanding. Many believe Rome fell because its men became weak. The theory suggested this was the primary cause, but serious historians point to multiple factors, and they identify many complex causes. Due to this cycle theory, people miss crucial factors like economic problems, military overextension, and climate changes. They even overlook the role of external pressures, administrative failures, and technological stagnation. The historical reality in this case is far more nuanced. There are countless factors involved in societal changes. A similar thing happened with interpretations of the Great Depression, when cycle believers attributed it to weakness rather than complex economic factors. Eventually, this led to a distorted understanding of important historical events. Now, these are some of the problems that can be found in historical discussions, but I'm sure there would be many more misunderstandings that this theory creates. I also feel this because there are very few mainstream historians who support this view. Nobody serious embraces it. I personally found this somewhat strange, but then I read a critical analysis of cyclical theories written by historian Peter Turchin in the year 2020. Then several online communities rejected his complex analysis, and his nuanced work was less shared than the simple cycle. After that, more historians started speaking out, and the evidence against simplified cycles became more accessible. Apart from articles, I have also watched many videos related to this cycle theory. In some videos, complete civilizational collapse is predicted, in which creators make dramatic claims about current generations and future hardships. Now, this process is considered highly unscientific by many serious historians. One more thing is common between such cycle videos, that is their dramatic presentation. You can see the videos which get the most views are the ones that have alarming predictions in the thumbnail. Also, you can see that people are making many fearful comments in the comments section. These creators would also be reading these comments, but they still upload new videos with similar alarmist claims. This raises a question about the exact purpose of these videos. Many commentators use emotional music and historical imagery to heighten the impact. All the historians I know in my life focus more on evidence and nuanced analysis than dramatic narratives. But these cycle theorists focus more on the performance than accurate history. Actually, my feed was suggesting many videos about societal collapse and generational cycles, so I took an interest in this field, and I watched videos about them, and then I studied their origins. I found it very interesting to know the actual background. I even read comments from people who said that this cycle theory is oversimplified and a misrepresentation of history. But also, some people wrote that this framework helped them understand society. I personally have not used this cycle to explain historical events in my life. I told you whatever I found online, but have you encountered this theory before? And what do you think about this perspective? Please tell me in the comments. I am very curious about it. And also, please tell me what other topics you want a video on. I will meet you in the next video. Till then, take care of yourselves.